Welcome back to the nationally recognized Real Estate Radio Network's Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Radio Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Make sure to get great information or ask your important questions at donandgino.com. Now, back to your friends, Don and Gino.
Well, thank you for joining us again on the second half of our second hour. That's right, 2 and 2.
I like that.
Yeah. Thank you again for joining us on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS, every Thursday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. now for 2.5 years, Gino.
2 and 2.
2 and 2, yes. There's a theme here.
Too cute.
And we want to thank Cherry Creek Mortgage for giving us the opportunity to not just be on the show every week, but also to help you with your dreams of home ownership. I mean, that's what our whole family, and it is a family. You stop by our office in Valencia, right off Attorney Road, and you can walk in at any time and be greeted by the most incredible mortgage team you will ever meet. Everybody really cares about you. Everybody there tries hard to make sure that you have the smoothest transaction. You're fully informed about everything because they all care. They would not be in our offices there at Cherry Creek Mortgage.
You know, it sounds wild, but on multiple occasions I've seen the girls share their lunch or offer to share their lunch with people.
They're hilarious.
That have walked in.
Yes,
it's pretty funny.
They are the best.
Yeah.
They are the best. So thank you for being part of the Cherry Creek Mortgage family. And Brandon, you're part of our Cherry Creek Mortgage family, buddy.
Absolutely, and honored to be a part.
Well, and right back at you. And hopefully you're listening because Brandon Montemeyer is in a different league because he has become an incredible expert in his field, meaning he puts so much effort into gaining knowledge, gaining experience, and gaining insight into the market. So Brandon's here today to share with us this shift in the market, and we're not just doing this to ploy, media exposure, but there is a dramatic shift going on again. Just so you know, you need to pay attention on a regular basis because the real estate market is the craziest I've ever seen it in the 26 years I've been in the industry. Good and bad. We've seen it go worse than I've ever seen it before in the crash, and to the best I've ever seen it for about a year now in double-digit, over 20% appreciation. Right here in California, Los Angeles is like 20.4%, 21.4% right now. Only Nevada's ahead of us at 26.5%. But just so you know, it's still an incredible, incredible time to buy because prices are still great. Interest rates are still amazing. Everybody's like, oh, rates have gone up. Jeez, they were at...
do that again, Don. Do it again.
I can't help it. I just hear everybody whining over, rates in the mid-4s. Back when I started in the industry, they were double digits. At one time in the 70s, we're talking 18.45. During the boom, Gino, when everybody loved real estate, they averaged 6.37%, and everybody was cool with that. They were all fine with 6.37%.
It was awesome.
It is amazing. And you get to write it off. You get to write off your property taxes. Your net is amazing. It goes lower than that interest rate you're paying. So just stop complaining. Get out there. Prices are still 20% below their peak in 2006. Still.
I actually had a conversation with someone about this yesterday. One of our clients who said, well, you don't think the next peak is going to be higher than the last peak, do you?
Of course it is.
And I said, of course it is. It always has been. Every single time in history, the next peak has been bigger than the last. And during the crash...
inflation.
Yeah, if you listen to the media during the last crash, they would make you believe that real estate would never, ever, ever recover. And that drove the crash. And if you look at what's happened now, you could tell that was bad advice. So many people should have bought when everything was bad, and of course investors stepped in. They were smart. They filled their portfolios with investment properties. They now have cash flow, appreciation, and everything. I think it's great.
So, speaking of smart advice, that's why we have Brandon Montemeyer here. So let's talk about, because you're a part now, networking is important, but you've also networked now with the top 20 real estate professionals in this valley. Yes. It's about 20 of you or so?
It's about 20 of us.
Okay.
Yep.
So you guys really pay attention. I know, Neil Weichel and some of the people that are involved in this are at the top of you. So kudos to you getting involved with such an elite group of real estate professionals. But you guys watch your numbers, and you all saw a shift, didn't you?
Absolutely. I mean, we had a conversation in our group about 4 weeks ago, and Neil got up and he said, "Has anybody noticed anything?" And everybody's hands go flying up. We went from almost overnight, and from one weekend to the next, with people out the door waiting to get into one of our listings that had been up for a day, or if we gave a tight window when they could go take a peek.
This is when you were getting 10, 15, 20 offers.
Yeah, and sometimes more. We've had as many as...
I've heard 40.
I've had 40-plus offers
no
on a home
way.
out in the
Wow.
valley. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and all aggressive, above asking price offers, on a home that was priced above fair market value. So, not a whole lot of reasoning behind where they were coming in, but almost overnight we went from just craziness to people stepping over each other to try to get into a home to nothing, to the point where we were laughing about having 80, 90 couples through a home on a weekend, to the next weekend saying only 1 or 2 couples coming through on a home that was priced the right way in the right area. I mean, it was crazy. So there was a combination of a few things, that we think have created, or we know created that. One is that interest rates have gone up. So
Did they go up?
Did they? Actually, it's funny you say that, because really we experienced 2 things during that little period. Is we experienced the largest interest rate rise in a 2-week span since 1952.
62, yeah.
62. And then the other thing we saw...
No, that was the one. We had another one that was the largest ever.
Trying to steal that from me. That was my next point. Yeah. And then the next one was the largest
Sorry.
interest rate rise in one day in history.
Oh, sorry. We share one brain. It's not our fault. It's not our fault.
So ultimately, those 2 things is what had an impact on your showings. Now, the good news is that what Don and I have seen is that was just the initial shock factor. Right. It was just oh my God, what happened? It's going to get better. They're going to go back to 3.5. Let's just wait a week or 2 and see what happened.
Yeah, how's that working out for you?
Well, and like you said, people are coming back. It's picking up again. People are starting to just say, okay,
shock factor
like we
gone.
said, they're getting over the boohooing a little bit and where the rates were, and saying, okay, it's still pretty darn good. And, and that we knew that was coming, but everyone was taking inventory of body parts and little ones. It was kind of the calm after the storm, and they
That's
just
a good
had
way
to
put it.
They had to regroup and make sure they were still intact. They were able to move forward. The good ones who had, quality lenders such as yourself were reevaluating their situation before they sent them back out there, because that's something we really have to look
You mean
at.
knowing your numbers before you go out there?
Knowing your numbers.
Wow.
Crazy concept. Huh?
Yeah.
But, but there's people who qualified for a $400,000 home at 3.75, and now that it's up a little bit, they don't qualify for that $400,000 home. So, we know when we get a pre-qual letter, from you guys or anyone at Cherry Creek Mortgage, that's been looked at recently.
Yep.
Where other ones on a lot of our listings, because we list a lot of homes, we run them by you guys to make sure that it's been looked at, because your qualifications from April aren't going to be.
Well,
the
you
same
love
thing as
seeing
this
on the pre-approval letters when it says interest rate of 3.5%, right?
Absolutely, it's my favorite.
You're like, have you read? Well, and it's important because you out there need to know your numbers. I mean, you get all excited to buy that $400,000 house, and you expect a certain payment, and this is ingrained in you. There's a reason, luckily people look at that stuff now. There was a time back when the last boom, people didn't care anymore because they just did stated income and bought homes they couldn't afford. But now you're looking at the numbers because you've been through some tough times and you've seen tough times. And you should know your numbers, and astutely so. Brandon, you're mentioning that they plan on having a payment of, which just say for round numbers, $2,200, and they go to buy that same home, but interest rate is going up. They're like, wait a minute, I didn't want to pay $2,400.
Yep.
My budget's $2,200. I'm not comfortable with that. So it's good that you go and reevaluate your numbers, and I know at Cherry Creek Mortgage we're really good at that, and I applaud you of caring enough to make sure your clients go and then reevaluate their numbers, so there aren't any surprises, because there's nothing worse, right?
And we're, and even with rates going up, we're still able to negotiate some lower prices for our clients. We're able to get a little bit more creative on how we structure these things with you guys. So, we're able to get around some of that stuff in regards to
Planning
not
ahead.
getting, it's planning ahead and not getting priced out of an area. But in some cases, it just happens. And as long as we know that it's what's happened, we can combat it by getting aggressive in that next price range or whatever it is. But again, if you're not working with someone who understands this or has a team that understands it, you'll be left flapping in the wind 25 days into escrow and homeless. That's a bad thing.
Yeah, and that's an emotional toll without a doubt. So when we come back, Brandon, let's go into this shifting market, because there's a big difference. For a while there, it was just put in your offer as high as you could, as fast as you can, but the market has changed. And I know for those like Brandon Montemeyer with the Keller Williams VIP properties, he knows what's going on in the market and how you can take advantage of the market today, because it has shifted. And you need to have a pro to help guide you through that. And Brandon's going to explain how he's shifted the way he's helping you become successful in the market today.
Shift happens, as they say.
I love that. We'll be right back with the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.